Go Create is a new digital resource for young people aged 11 to 16 years with the second series based on Handel's opera Semele. Through this programme, we aim to enable young people to explore their creativity with Garsington Opera and other local arts organisations. The films can be experienced individually or collectively, and teachers can also play them as part of lessons to enhance the curriculum. The programmes were scripted much in the same way that we would write a live workshop schedule. There is more detail and it's split into a series of sequences with time codes attached. The programme style explores creating a live workshop feel that asks the viewer to join the activity. Here is an example of a drama workshop on the Go Create series.
When I begin rehearsals, I always would start with a warm-up. So please join us, find a space and warm up with us. And we're going to start by shaking our hands. It's an opera, so it's a sung story. So we need to warm up our voices. So do join us, and I'm going to hand to Hannah.
Thank you. So we're going to start by just rubbing our hands together, shaking our hands and rolling our shoulders back. We don't just need to warm up our voices, we need to warm up our whole bodies, because as you'll see these guys on stage, they're using everything all at the same time, and they need to be thinking about multiple things at the same time. So that's what we're going to do. It's a little challenge for you. We start by counting down our bodies. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Do that with me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And after the numbers, in the gaps between those numbers, we're going to put words. We're going to put the words Handel's Semele, and then the word opera at the end. And I'll teach you the sequences. So just to begin with, we're going to say 1, Handel Semele, 2, Handel Semele, 3, Handel Semele, 4, Handel Semele. Clapping as loudly as we can. 1, 2, 3, and 1, Handel Semele, 2, Handel Semele, 3, Handel Semele, 4, Handel Semele. Lovely. Next sequence, we just put the word Semele in the gap. 1, 2, 3, and 1, Semele, 2, Semele, 3, Semele, 4, Semele. And last of all, we put Handel in the gap. 1, 2, 3, and 1, Handel, 2, Handel, 3, Handel, 4, Handel. And just to finish off, we're going to go opera, 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 opera. 1, 2, 3, and opera, 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 opera. Lovely. Let's put it all together. Good luck. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 1, Handel Semele, 2, Handel Semele, 3, Handel Semele, 4, Handel Semele, 1, Semele, 2, Semele, 3, Semele, 4, Semele, 1, Handel 2, Handel 3, Handel 4, Handel opera, 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 opera. Well done.
The story of the opera is told through a series of pieces to camera, followed by extracts of Garsington's production.
Hopefully you'll be completely warmed up, and you might have noticed that Hannah was improvising along to that warm-up, and she was using some of the themes of Handel's music, so you'll have already heard little hints of it. But let's really hear about George Frederick Handel. Hannah.
Handel was born in a small town in Germany in the same year as Bach. His father apparently was not a fan of his music making, so he had to climb up to the attic whenever he wanted to practice his keyboard. But when he was 27, he was quite a celebrity and came to England, paid by Queen Anne, and wrote a host of instrumental and choral works, including almost 50 operas. He was a man of the stage, interested in selling shows and telling stories. And though you might not know much about the man, you will almost certainly recognise his music. I wonder how many of you recognise this. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. That's his Hallelujah chorus from the Messiah, often performed at Christmas time. How about this one? That's his water music, written for an orchestra to perform on a barge as it sails up the Thames for a royal occasion. And how about this? The Arrival of the Queen of Sheba from Solomon, often played, of course, as the bride is walking up the aisle.
The design. Nikki Shaw is interviewed and she gives advice to young people on how to get into theatre design.
We're now going to meet one of Britain's top theatre designers, Nikki Shaw, who designed Garsington's production of Semele. How do you go about designing a show like this?
You start by listening to the piece and reading the libretto, which is the story of the opera, and you work with your colleague, the director. Sometimes the director has a strong idea themselves where they might want to place the opera, and sometimes you explore that journey together. In this instance, we explored the journey together, listening to the piece separately and then coming together and sharing ideas over many, many meetings. What do we need to solve? What problems are there? Where do people need to be placed? Where are they set? And this set is the heavens. Semele is living in the heavens once she's been swept away. So that was our starting point.
And what was your starting point as a designer? How did you become a theatre designer?
By going to the theatre a lot. Very fortunate to be taken to theatre by a parent who loved going to shows and seeing everything.
The next section we looked at is directing. Throughout the series, carefully selected clips of Garsington Opera's production of Semele were shown. This one emphasises the design that Nikki has talked about and leads into an interview with director Anneliese Miskimmen, live on Zoom.
So now I'm going to be joined by Anneliese Miskimmen, who directed that remarkable production. So, Anneliese, when you were asked to direct Semele at Garsington Opera, how did you come up with your concept and visualisation of the piece, and who did you work with to realise that?
For me, a key person is, of course, the designer, the set and costume designer of the show, Nikki Shaw. But it always starts off with, in my case, me phoning someone like Nikki, who I've worked with a lot, and saying, Nikki, would you like to work on Semele by Handel? She says yes. Then we get very excited for 5 minutes. And then I say, oh my goodness, there's this aria, Endless Pleasure, where Jupiter, a god, has to come on and take her up to heaven. And then we think, how on earth are we going to do that? Usually you start from the tricky things and you start solving all the problems, hopefully in the most beautiful and fun way.
We explored devising. Director Karen Gillingham gives practical examples that everyone can try to explore their own devising and directing of a scene.
I think that making a scene that's a very physical scene, it's a really good idea to start off with a series of tableaus. So what I'm going to ask you to do is think of a position you might be in if there was a massive clap of thunder. Off you go. So try and find that position. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to leave it there. Next one is that there's a huge moment of lightning. So where does that go? And you might count between these once you've got them. Lightning, lovely. And I really like that they've gone to different levels between them. Next one is a tornado happens. If you imagine the wind is coming from this direction and it's sort of shooting all of you in that direction down there. So let's have a little look at what that might happen there. Lovely. Great, I like that. And then from there, the ground starts shaking, so it's an earthquake. Let's bring that quite far up and maybe with things elevated, chairs, music stands. Great. Let's run that as a sequence. I'm going to count between them. So as I'm saying 3, 2, 1, if you merge between your tableaus each time. Thunder, 3, 2, 1, and freeze. You've got a little hook of freeze in there. Lightning, 3, 2, 1, and freeze. Tornado, 3, 2, 1, and freeze. Earthquake, 3, 2, 1, and freeze. Love it. Okay, so you can get back to your seats. We're now going to show the performance of Avert These Omens. A massive storm is happening, and it actually looks like quite a complex piece of choreography. And as you've seen, it really isn't, but it's just a really quick way to create something with lots of dynamic in it. Avert These Omens. Thanks, Jonathan.
Avert these omens, O ye powers, O ye powers, O ye powers, O ye powers. Oh, when with sudden night the day that takes flight, in boding thunder, in boding
In the series, we also explore production art, and here we head backstage.
We know from Annalise that so much goes into making an opera. So I'm back here in the backstage storage barn to talk to the wonderful Steve Hawkins, who's technical director here at Garsington Opera. What does your job entail?
A technical director oversees all the backstage activity. Here at Garsington, my job is split in two. I'm also one of the production managers, working with the designers to realise the stage designs.
I've made a little note here, and I've got technical director in the middle. Who else makes up this whole team of people in the company that make a production happen?
So starting on the production side, the production manager works closely with the designer. They receive a model box and costume drawings, and they'll allocate the budget accordingly to what the particular production requires. Those budgets will then get handed to heads of department.
So where should we go first?
If we head towards costume, costume has a costume supervisor who works closely with the designer to realise the costume design.
So, to reflect, through a series of feedback sessions with a cross-section of viewers, it is clear that the workshop element of these films are what are most successful. Garsington Opera hope to develop this further in their next series of Go Create.